Welcome everyone, and I hope you're having a great Earth Week so far. It's a special one too. Earth Day was started in 1970, so that means it's the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. And we're excited to be sharing today's webinar as the second webinar in a two-part series this week. Thanks to everyone who joined us earlier this week, and we're excited to provide this new presentation today. To everyone who's new and joining us today, we're excited to have you here as well, and we hope that you enjoy today's presentation. My name is Ileana Betancourt, and I'm a member of Eat for the Earth, and will be your host today for today's webinar. I'm joined today by fellow Eat for the Earth members Sabrina Lopez, Dan Stevenson, and Abel Gonzalez, who will be available in the chat and able to provide any support you might need during today's event. Reverend Beth Love and Sandy Reckenmacher are our featured presenters, and I'll introduce them momentarily. In the meantime, I want to, again, thank you for being here with us today, and want to transition over to housekeeping to make sure that everyone understands a little bit about how Zoom works and where to put your questions and where to comment throughout today's presentation. Next slide, please. Thank you. So a couple of housekeeping things are, you might see that Q&A box. It has a Q on this little folder icon and then Q&A underneath it. Please put your questions there and we'll be sure to answer them as soon as possible, or we'll save them to be answered by one of our featured presenters at the end of the presentation. Another place I want to direct your attention to is the chat. So in the chat, you have the option to set that little blue bubble to panelists or panelists and everyone who's in the webinar. So if you could just make sure that that is set so that everyone who's attending the webinar as well as us panelists can see what's being said. Let's test that out. So change that setting so everyone can see what you're saying, and why don't you let us know where you're tuning in from today, and maybe what's the weather like, or your favorite food. We asked that last time, so I'm trying to mix it up. Looks like Issa's tuning in from Philly. Awesome. I'm here in Santa Cruz. It's very sunny and warm today. We've had a little warm spell as we transition towards summer. Colorado, nice and sunny today. Awesome. Another Santa Cruz, bright and sunny. Someone's eating a sweet potato right now. Delicious. We have purple yams in this picture here, which are essentially like sweet potatoes. Cool. Milwaukee. Ooh. Hopefully we can send you some of that sunshine. Avocados. Nashville, Tennessee. San Diego. It's hot. Hawaii, nice and sunny. And SoCal, nice, awesome, welcome everyone. Okay, so please use the chat throughout today's presentation. We might ask you some interactive questions, and also we'd love to hear comments and thoughts and ideas throughout this whole thing, so don't be shy. And now you've all experienced it, so now you're comfortable using the chat, I hope. Okay, so today's presentations are focused on how you can eat in a way that's good for the earth and also good for you. We're gonna have a little intro by Reverend Beth Love, who's one of our featured presenters. So I'm gonna go ahead and introduce her right now. Reverend Beth Love is the author of, and I think we wanna go to the next slide. Perfect, thank you. Reverend Beth Love is the author of Taste Like Love book series. She's a speaker, facilitator, teacher, and ordained New Thought minister. Beth has motivated and educated people in diverse contexts, such as nonprofit organizations, schools, churches, businesses, and the California state prison system. She has inspired large and small audiences in person and online through radio and television, from local community TV to the Oprah show. And due to her concern about the contribution of animal agriculture to the climate crisis and other environmental issues, Beth started Eat for the Earth, an organization that partners with institutions to adopt policies and practices that reduce purchasing and service of animal products to sustain life on Earth. And with that, it's my pleasure to invite Beth on to present and share her screen. Beth, I can also turn on your audio and camera if that helps.
Please do.
Okay, go ahead and start video, and then I think I'll need to share your screen again.
Okay. So sorry.
Okay, and I can't see.
I'm so excited, and I will be sharing my screen in just a moment, and I'm going to be talking about I'm so sorry. I am so sorry, everybody. Okay.
And get to know everyone who introduced themselves in the chat. It also looks like we have someone else from Tennessee where it's cloudy and rainy. So again, sending you some California sunshine.
I got really confused because you said you can start sharing your screen, and I think you meant my video. So here we go. Are we in my screen again?
Yes, all set.
Okay. All right. So on the internet, I noticed that there were dozens of people that attributed this statement, "Our intention creates our reality," to Wayne Dyer. And I don't know whether Wayne Dyer said that exactly or not, but what I know is that throughout time, is my video on? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay.
I cannot
We can't see you.
Okay. All right. Okay. So what I know is that throughout time, spiritual teachers and self-help gurus and wise sages have shared some version of this idea that our intention is a really powerful thing, and that we really don't create anything without first having an intention. And many times those intentions are not conscious to us. We just walk around our world and things are happening and we think they're just happening. But we forget that we are first cause, that we are the ones that set things into motion through our intention. And at the beginning of this webinar, what I want to do is to have us set an intention together, because I think this is really important what we're doing here. This isn't just a webinar. This is about the survival of life on Earth. And so I want us together to create an intention. And so I'm going to ask each of you, why are you here? What are you hoping to get? What are you hoping to give? What are you hoping to experience? And I'd like you to put that intention in the chat. And in just a moment, I'll have Ileana read some of them out. But for starters, I just want to say that my intention is that when we leave this place, we feel inspired, we feel uplifted, and we feel empowered to make a difference in this world. And that together we feel connected and we create an amazing experience. And that each person who has come to this webinar gets exactly what it is that they need. And I'm just going to say, even if what you need is to make fun of me and my poor technological skills, I'm going to let that be okay as well, that each person gets exactly what it is that they came for. And so Ileana, can you read a few of the comments that are coming into the chat?
Certainly. Okay. I'm curious. Isa says she's curious to learn more about her food choices. Mead says, my intention is to be open to what transpires without preconceptions. Michelle says, teach patients a better diet. It's great. Dan says, I want to get an experience of community and I want to give my piece of humanity to that. Lynn says, live a healthier lifestyle. Abel says, my intention is to be present and supportive. Smiley face. Lisa says, looking for ways to make a better impact on the environment while also making better choices for myself. Someone else says, learn more easy food options. Cindy says, continue eating for the planet and inspire my students to do the same. Mohini says, love Beth and her mission, working towards vegan. Bailey says, I hope to learn how to nourish myself and the earth. I want to make positive impacts on the environment. Golden says, be a part of the change that improves our health and that of the planet. Rachel says, I've come to this event to learn more about different ways in which I can, and what I can do to influence and hopefully help live a better environment. Roy says, be aware of all the food I eat. And Kaysen says, looking for better ways to eat naturally.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, everybody. It feels really inspiring already. So here's the predicament that we're in. We have myriad interrelated crises, and we could talk about the economy, we could talk about the humanitarian crisis, we could talk about issues with drugs, so many issues in our countries and in our world today. Today we're going to look at 4 of these, and primarily the first 3. We have worldwide crises in nutrition, health, environment, and exacerbated by the fact that the population is booming and that we're heading toward 10 million by 2050, and that all of these crises will be worse if this trajectory that we're on stays the same. So we're going to talk about the nutrition crisis. And I think people often think about the nutrition crisis in terms of starving children in Africa. And it's true, what they call undernourishment. People, you know, there's people starving, many people starving in the world. But we forget that part of the nutrition crisis is that we also have what they call overnutrition, which is really overeating. It's really having too much food, eating too much food. It's not necessarily too much nutrition. And then right now, you know, we're experiencing another health crisis with this pandemic, and they're all interrelated. The environmental crisis, this is the one that drives me because we're on such a tight time frame, particularly with the climate crisis. And, you know, we need to act quickly to change our lifestyles so that we can keep enjoying life here on Earth as we know it, or better. And again, look at how much the population is projected to grow to 2100. And if we keep on with the way we're going, we really don't have the capacity in terms of feeding the entire planet, the world's people, a healthy, sustainable diet unless we make some significant changes. Now, one of the things I also want to intend is that we look at some scary truths like that today, but that we also keep hope, that we keep a sense of empowerment as we look at this question of how can we feed our growing population a healthy diet while simultaneously respecting the Earth's environmental limits. Is it even possible? And the answer is scientists have looked at this. There are a number of studies that have come out recently and they've looked at it, and the answer is resoundingly yes. We can do this thing. It's just that to do it, we need to eat more plants. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Ileana because she's going to introduce our second presenter.
Awesome. Thanks, Beth, for introducing those intentions and setting the scene for this webinar. I'm excited to introduce Sandy Reckenmacher, who is a nutritional consultant, educator, plant-based chef, and PCRM Food for Life instructor. Her 40-plus-year venture into nutrition science, starting in the 70s as the owner of a natural food store, has generated for her a deep understanding of the subject, a wealth of enlightening narratives, and a variety of platforms from which she shares with others the simply nutritious way of attaining optimal health and wellness. It's a delicious adventure in which she works closely with Mama Nature. So I'd like to welcome you on, Sandy. Share your video and take it away from here.
Okay, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Ooh, technology. Yeah, this is me, Sandy Reckenmacher. I've been with, let's see.
We can't see you though, so if you want to share, there we go.
Okay, there I am. Hi, everybody. Yeah, so I'm here. I want to just let you know a little bit about myself besides what Ileana so graciously extolled in her introduction. I have been on this journey for 40 years, and it's been a great adventure. And what I've noticed along the way is that I can be sure when I stick with Mother Nature that I'm on the right track. So I wanted to share some of nature's wisdom with you today. And if you haven't heard already of the human microbiome, this is what I want to jump into. This is probably the most researched subject right now in the last, say, 10, 15, 20 years. It's new science, and it's science that is giving us a bigger picture of how we're all connected together on the planet. We harbor in our bodies trillions of microbes. That means that there are microbes on our skin and inside of us. There are 100 times more genes in our microbial genome. And this is important because the genes in our bodies, in our own mammalian genes, and with the genes in our microbial genome, represent those influences that happen when we introduce food. So it's really important to understand that the genes from the microbes have actually more to say about who we are, what we're about, than our own microbes. I'm sorry, our own genes. And we are wired into all, this microbiome is wired into all aspects of our biology. Note here, our survival is based upon our connection with nature, this connection. So here's a visual. You can see our mammalian genes in the first visible organs. There's our organs of our body. It tells about this, how many cells and how many genes. And then you can see the second invisible microbiome. This is all the microbes on our skin and inside of us. They're all over our body. They represent millions more microbes and millions more genes. And these two combined equal a complete human. We have these microbes as a symbiotic relationship. We need them, they need us. We are their home, they are our health. They help our digestive systems, our mental systems, and our immune system. So internal and external environments are connected. The microbes are the interface between not only ourselves, but our environment. So say, for instance, we go to the garden and pick a carrot. The carrot, especially since it's a root, is talking with the microbes in the soil. It's bringing up the minerals and the vitamins from the soil and creating this beautiful plant. We pull it out, we eat it. We are now having a very intimate connection with our environment, with the earth, and we are part of the bigger picture. There's a little bit of a problem here because of man's wisdom, or the culture that we are born into. What happened a couple hundred years ago, there was a disconnect that started, and it was a good intention. There was a good intention. There was a gentleman, Louis Pasteur, a French microbiologist, who found out that there were some bugs, some bad bugs, that were creating diseases. And so there became this situation, is called the germ theory. And in the germ theory, was thought that the bugs now are bad. And we have to declare a war on these bugs. And when we declare a war on these bugs, then it got into people's, scientists' brains, doctors' brains, modern medicine, that we need to control this. And instead of seeing this as a symptom, modern medicine has taken it to the place where we're just going to take control of these symptoms. We're gonna deal with these symptoms instead of looking at the problem, the causes. So say for, we get a bad bug. So we're just gonna put antibiotics in the situation and kill all the bugs. Now, not to say that antibiotics haven't worked. It has. In fact, Louis Pasteur, he created the first vaccines for rabies and anthrax. And because of those antibiotics, saved a lot of people. In fact, I'm here today because of antibiotics used at certain times in my life for good reason. Drugs are invented, okay, a pill for each ill. So let's just look at the symptoms and throw in some drugs and see what happens. But as with antibiotics, drugs also have side effects. And surgeries were invented as treatments to reduce the symptoms. Okay, so this body part doesn't work, perhaps we can take it out, take out certain organs. You only need one kidney, you can live with one kidney, you can take out your appendix, etc. But again, we haven't been looking at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is what Mama Nature has to teach us about, which is the microbes. So before I go there, I want to talk about 3 things that have happened. I call it mankind's faux pas. And they've been domestication, industrialization, and intensification. Domestication was basically happened when mankind decided to herd animals. And when you herd animals, as we see now, it creates situations when there's so many animals contained in small environments that they could promote infectious diseases. Then we have industrialization, which came with that, was modern food, new food. And from new foods, people eating man-made foods, we have created chronic diseases. And lastly, with intensification, so now we've ramped up the time scale, and we are able to produce so many more crops in a field, so much for food on the shelf in the store. And these are the situations that are actually causing these problems. So let's look at them each individually. This is about domestications. And this is an incredible slide. If there's nothing else you remember today, remember this slide. Mankind has lived on the planet for about 2 million years. So what we're looking at in this slide is about the last 1/10 of the time we've been here on the planet. So in other words, 90% of the time we've been living on the planet, we can see that the first column is how we came to the planet. There was a certain amount of wild animals. You can see it in the turquoise circle. And then inside of that circle, there's a little teeny green dot, and that's humankind. So the proportion, this is the biomass distribution, and this is land animals only. The biomass distribution shows the percentage of humans to wild animals is very, very small. All right, so we go forward, and 10,000 years ago is when it was the birth of agriculture. And at that time, not only did people stay in one spot to tend their crops, they also started tending flocks. And this is when they started herding animals. At this time, it's 10,000 years ago, from 10,000 years ago, say to 1970, okay? Well, that was only 50 years ago, and look what's happened. Over that time, not only have wild animals decreased, human population has blown up. It's huge in relationship to what it was, and something on the planet we've never seen before. These orange circles representing livestock. Now, I would kind of like to say that this is not natural. This is not what Mother Nature had in mind, never did. And I would also like to say maybe more of, instead of livestock, it would be doom stock. These animals are doomed. They are here specifically for to be eaten. There's two things I want to show. That the third column is only 50 years later. And as Beth described in a slide earlier, the human population is on an upscale swing. The human population is going to grow, and at this rate, according to this distribution, it looks like, you know, if we want to keep eating this way, the livestock will also increase. I don't think this is sustainable. I do not think so. And I don't think it is very compassionate. Just think of it in terms of this. If you were a human and you had, say, 5 dogs, all right, so every day you need to take care of those 5 dogs. You need to make sure they have food and shelter. You need to make sure they are clean and clean up after them. You need to make sure that they can get around and run and do what dogs need to do. And that's a lot of care for 5 animals. In this situation here, looking at today, and the amount of livestock and the amount of humans, there's not very many humans per livestock taking care of this livestock. This livestock is not, like I would venture to say, is not being taken care of very well. And we'll look at that in another slide real soon. Okay, that aside, now I want to get your nutrition mind working. As you can see here, people have referred to early humans as hunter-gatherers. All right, if you look back, humans might have eaten an animal now and then, but nowadays, the amount of meat and from livestock and animal products is just off the record. So remember that, because what we're going to go back and talk about in nutrition is eating less meat. And there's a good reason why. It has to do with fat. We'll cover that in a minute. I'm going to go forward and also tell you about this problem with industrialization. Okay, so now after World War II, we see what's popping up. We see people taking war technology into the agricultural fields and coming up with great ways of making more soy, more corn, more grains, producing that. And now we have more components to make food with, and then the food industry as making up new food. And the new food, a lot of it is very simplified, taking natural food forms and simplifying them. And then we have TV, and we have new food and marketing, and we have the baby boomers, and we have the marketing being so pervasive that we have slogans and jingles. Sugar frosted flakes are great. That's a lie. Everybody needs milk, referring to dairy milk. That's a lie. Coke, it's the real thing. That's a lie. Bet you can't eat one. Now that's true. So you see, what's happened is the food industry has made these food items incredibly addictive, and they are not nutrient rich. They have simplified Mother Nature so much so that you can see in this picture, it's hard not to gain weight. You're eating calories, but they're empty calories. The third part of this domestication, industrialization is an intensification, is this word intensification. Oh my gosh. So if we hadn't produced enough, and now the whole idea is to go faster, faster, faster. So we have now wet markets and CAFOs, which are covered animal feeding operations, to grow animals so quickly. The bad bugs are quickly due to grow in these crowded, warm, hot, unsanitary conditions with the use of antibiotics, feeding animals inappropriate foods, and treating them inhumanely. These animals just want to feed on greens, roots, worms. They want to be outdoors, outside. Just a side note that 75 to 80% of antibiotics produced are used in animal agriculture. You will get a link at the end to this talk by Dr. Greger in 2008. That was 12 years ago, talking about the probability of the good bugs growing out of these conditions. Okay, so who wins? Man versus nature? Nature always wins. Nature is the one we have to pay attention to. So that's why we come to nature, nutrition science, which I call nature science. We're going to rely on the good bugs. We're going to go back to the idea of the microbiome and the good bugs. What do they dine on? They dine on prebiotics. And another word for prebiotics is plants. Why? Because plants have fiber, and the bugs want to eat the fiber. They use the fiber to generate energy and other components that protect us and feed us. Also, probiotics, those are foods that also have good bugs already in them. Fermented foods, we'll talk about that again in another slide. And then we also need to talk about variety, wild foods, eat something different every day, and seasonal. So prebiotics are also called plants, also called fiber foods. Fiber, fiber, fiber. Notice this, that Mother Nature puts in not just fiber in a food, but also water and a variety of protective nutrients all in one. But the most important thing is fiber. Why? Fiber cleans. It keeps us clean with two kinds of fiber, insoluble and soluble. It escorts out bad drugs, excess fats, excess toxins. You want to keep your system clean. It's fiber escorts those things out of your body every day. It also satiates you. It fills you up. It makes you feel full, and that's what we want to feel. We want to feel full. It regulates you. It makes your bowels move. We want to keep that system happening. We want to regulate and move our bowels a couple times a day. It lowers the blood sugar levels. So when you eat fiber, it slows down your metabolism of your foods. Complex carbohydrates have those fibers in there to slow down all the sugars that are in them. So you have a smooth rolling system over time. It's packed with nutrients. They're packed with fiber. Also comes with nutrients, proteins, and the best of all, it feeds the good bugs. How does it do this? It creates, when you eat a food and you metabolize it, you take it down into your gut, in the lower colon, the bugs are waiting there for this fiber foods, and they're waiting to get this because they metabolize it. They change it into energy for them and us. They also use these short chain fatty acids that are produced from the fiber to help maintain a protective mucus layer. They lower the gut pH, and that fends off the pathogens, the bad bugs. They make vitamins. They produce anti-inflammatory metabolites to keep us in a homeostasis. That means a good balance, and they maintain good blood-brain barrier. Some microbes, I want you to know, only live for 20 minutes. So in one day, you have generations of microbes. And so that's why you need to keep eating fiber foods to make more microbes. Note that when you poo, 60% of your poo is microbes. So you should have healthy stools. And being regular is pooing 1 to 3 times a day. Probiotics, what's a probiotic? They are foods that have good bugs in them. They are fermented foods. So if you don't know any of these, start putting something of these into your diet every day. They are the good bugs that promote bug diversity in your gut, and they support the GI, the health, the gut health. So pickles, yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut, miso, tempeh, tamari, vinegar. It's easy to make your own yogurts from soy, and also sauerkrauts and kimchis are easy to make. Really important is variety, because we want to grow a deep team. And each plant offers a different mix of fiber and soil microbe input. So our good bugs in our gut, these are the foods that give us energy and metabolize nutrients to support health and wellness. Very quickly, I want to say not only is it important what you put in your body, it's really important what you don't put in your body. And that slide I was talking about with the saturated fats, with all the livestock, those are saturated fats, okay? Those are animal products. They also represent the milk and cheese and dairy and butter that we eat. And these are the fats that are bad. They're the ones that are stiff and they're non-essential. Why? Because our bodies make them. We don't need to eat animal products because we get our own saturated fats. Our body produces those. So when you overeat those, like we do, like in that graph, and it showed all the livestock, we can't help but eating so much more animal products because it's in our culture. So we need to take a look at that and take a step away from that. Also, man-made trans fatty acids. The reason why we say don't eat processed foods is because man has processed oils. There are no oils that are good for us. Oils are a man-made item. They're not made by nature. So besides what we do eat, don't eat these non-essentials. This is a very quick look at the standard American diet, the SAD. It's just showing us how the blue is all the animals, the orange is all the man-made products. That's only leaving 7% of plant foods. So 7%, you can see why we are very sick, and because we're feeding bad bugs. We're not feeding the good bugs, put it that way. So to wrap it up, feed your good bugs, and they feed us. It's a symbiotic relationship. We house them and they feed us and keep us healthy. Eat a variety of fiber foods, fresh, seasonal, organic, essential fats. And those are the fats we need are from the greens and beans and nuts and seed. Complex carbohydrates. The only reason why people say avoid carbs is they're talking about simple man-made carbs. So if you eat the fruits and grains and legumes and vegetables on the power plate, you are going to get all the plant protein you need. You're going to get all the complex carbohydrates and all the fats. You're going to get the protection from the plants. And besides that, help yourself to some probiotic foods every day. So nature in her wholeness and diversity, and those are her blessings. The more diversity you can put in on your plate with so many more plants, you're going to have so many more bugs. Here are some excellent resources that you will have links to at the end of this seminar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sandy. I always learn something when you speak, and I think, Sabrina, you could go ahead and put those you could put those links in the chat right now, so we don't have to load everybody up at the end. So give me just a moment to share my screen. Yes. Okay. So if you're like me, you probably know some big truths that perhaps you've known since you were very young, and that perhaps you haven't even, don't even know why you know they're true, but you just know they're true. They're just deep, big truths. And I have two such truths that I've known since I was a child. The first one is something I didn't admit to myself for a long time. And it's risky to share it because I fear that I might be judged, but I'm going to share it anyway. I am here to change the world. And I believe that you are too. The second truth is that I've known since I was very young that the way to change the world was to change our treatment of children. And this has been my compass, my guiding principle throughout my life. So whether I was starting or running Montessori schools or ministries or nonprofit organizations, or as I am here teaching 3- and 4-year-olds to meditate, what I knew was that if we could do a better job with our children, we could have a better world. And I went through many times when I was out of my comfort zone and where my path was calling me to something I didn't understand. But when I kept going back to that compass, it always worked until it didn't. In 2015, I had an epiphany. I realized that if we lost the habitability of the earth and the children had nowhere to live, that all the good work that myself and so many others were doing would not bring about that beautiful vision that I had of a world in which everybody was nourished, in which everybody had their needs met, in which people knew how to be kind. So I had to find another way. And the new compass that I adopted is not so different than the compass that I originally had. And this is it. I am committed because I believe that the children of the earth deserve to have an earth that is sustainable, that supports them in having healthy, compassionate, just, sustainable lives. And so even when I go into really different territory, like suddenly being an online educator, and I'm so far out of my comfort zone, that compass keeps me moving forward, and that compass is a centering place for me. So I'm going to invite you right now to go ahead and put in the chat something that you know to be true, some principle that guides your life. And go ahead and start putting it in now. Because what I know is that we are in amazing times, really, truly amazing times. It's like the universe is calling humanity up to be more than what we have ever been before. It is giving us an invitation to rise up to all of these challenges that I spoke about earlier, and to be more just, more compassionate, to be better expressions of who we are. And what I know is that to do this is going to call us so far out of our comfort zones. I mean, for some of you on this call, when you said that what you're moved to is to eat less meat or to move in the direction of veganism, that is so countercultural. And that really does require that we have anchoring ideas, that we have really clear guiding principles that help us to be able to make those kinds of changes. And that is what we need to do as a global human family. So go ahead and put it in the chat. And I see that some of you already are. So I'm going to ask Ileana, go ahead and just read a few of these inspirations, these guiding principles that are in the chat. And I don't think we'll have time to read all of them, but go ahead and read a few, please, Ileana.
Thanks, Beth. I will. And while people are adding them in, do you mind just restating one more time what people are submitting in the chat?
Okay, yeah. So what's the guiding principle that keeps you going even when you get out of your comfort zone? What's a truth that you know that's so true? Like for me, one of my truths is that I'm here to change the world. And that one of my truths is that no matter what happens, I'm committed to work toward a world in which the children can have a life, and their children after them, that they deserve. That's a truth to me. They deserve to have a planet that supports them and that nurtures them and that gives them what they need.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm seeing redress our world to a more humane and compassionate place. treat others how they want to be treated, because everyone is different and unique. I live by the concept of harm reduction, meeting people where they are at to support and educate them so they can empower themselves. This could be done with anything: drug use, serving our homeless population, positive environmental change. I believe that holding space for people, we can have a better world, be the change you wish to see. I'm guided by my desire to help my friends and family to live their best lives. I want to live in the best world possible, and I want to be an agent of change towards that vision. My truth that keeps me going is that I am just one of a very small piece of the whole. This makes me feel like I'm a part of something bigger and reminds me that I have a responsibility towards my fellow human beings during this experience in life.
Those are beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And you can keep putting them in there. You know, I really appreciate it when people are chatting. Even if I'm talking, I believe that this is the new world, right? And so let's do this thing together. So thank you, everybody. And yeah, let's go on. So in this presentation, we're focusing on supporting people to move toward diets that are good for the earth, or that are the best for the earth. And basically what E for the Earth teaches is that if we adopt plant-based or plant-forward diets, that we can positively impact climate, water, so many other environmental issues that we're not going to have time to go into at this point, but also infectious disease, and as Sandy so eloquently stated, health, nutrition. There's so many great benefits, you know, spiritual integrity, our humanity. And so we're talking about, in the rest of this presentation, about mostly climate and a little bit about water. So I'm concerned about the climate crisis because, you know, the UN a couple of years ago told us that we maybe had 13 years left. We know that greenhouse gas emissions are warming the earth, and if we get to a certain point, there's no return. Animal agriculture is a significant contributor, and methane is a greenhouse gas that has special ramifications that we'll go over a little bit. But what's really amazing is that research has demonstrated that it is possible for us to keep living on this earth, to avert climate disaster, and to be able to feed everybody a nutritious, healthy diet. And that's what I'm super excited about, even as the population grows. So animal agriculture, there's a range of different ideas about how much of a percentage of global greenhouse gases that it is, but even at the low end of the spectrum, it's very significant. And so any reduction in animal products that you're eating helps, any incremental amount. So when we think about the gases that are largely associated with animal agriculture, they have other sources as well, but animal agriculture is associated with methane, nitrous oxide, black carbon, and of course carbon dioxide. What's important to know is that even that 14.5%, it's making more warming on the earth, because these are very potent greenhouse gases that warm the earth much more quickly than carbon dioxide, but they also go out of the atmosphere more quickly. So as we change our diets, the climate changes pretty quickly in response. This shows the sources of nitrous oxide. The green is agriculture, and almost all of the nitrous oxide from agriculture is from animal agriculture and feed crops, with the nitrogen fertilizer that's put on the feed crops. So you can see it's the bulk of the nitrous oxide is from animal agriculture. And then sources of methane, very potent greenhouse gas. The green, again, is very large. And then that purple bar is waste, and that includes animal waste. So again, we have our old friend, animal agriculture, more than its fair share of greenhouse gases. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about methane and ruminant animals, because methane does come from other sources as well, including fracking is a really huge source of it, and there's many other sources. And among animals, most animals do emit some methane, and it comes off of their waste product as well. But ruminant animals are a special case because they have 4 stomachs, and fermentation is happening in their stomachs, and burps and farts are coming out, and those are methane. So that fermentation is the largest source of human-caused methane emissions. So the book Drawdown says if cattle were their own nation, they would be the world's 3rd largest emitter of greenhouse gases. And Drawdown, if you haven't read it, very hopeful book, really amazing book. It has 100 solutions that if we start implementing, we can avert the climate crisis before it's too late. So read the book, animal agriculture is their fourth top solution. If we can change to plant-based diets or plant-forward diets, that's the fourth most potent thing we can do to make sure we avert this disaster. So it matters what kind of animal products you're eating. In other words, if you're eating animal products, the blue bars are the greenhouse gas emissions without the methane, and then you can see the gray bars as the extension of methane. And what we have on the top, the biggest producers of greenhouse gas emissions from protein-rich foods in this chart are a couple of different ways that beef is produced, and then farmed prawns, beef, then lamb and goats, and then, you know, pork, chicken, cheese, eggs, etc. are below that. And I didn't even include the plant sources of protein on here. I cut them off so it would fit the slide, and also because they were tiny compared to the smallest animal agriculture. So overall, the diet that you eat really matters. You can see the high meat diet on the top of this is more than twice as much greenhouse gas emissions as the vegan diet, which is like I said at the beginning with the slide with the two different diets, there's the good for the earth, and then there's the best for the earth. The vegan diet is the best for the earth. Not all vegan diets are equal, but if you're eating all plants, you're really doing the earth a big favor. But anything along the way is helpful. Like I said earlier, if you're more moderate, if you eat less meat, if you go to pescatarian or vegetarian, those are also critical, important steps for people to take. So here's some of the things that we can do when we're eating to cool the earth. Is we can start by eliminating or reducing any one of these products, ruminant meats or all meats or dairy or meat and dairy. Adopting a plant-strong diet means a diet that has mostly plants but small amount of animal products, or going to a plant-based diet. We're going to go quickly through a few water slides. So there's a lot of different considerations when you're thinking about water. You know, we have to think about, like, what are the sources? What are the things that we do that use up the most water? The water to produce our food, whether it's by the pound or the calorie or the gram of protein. And then there's water pollution. There's the health of the oceans and fresh water. And then, you know, here in California where I live, we have frequent severe droughts, and many places in the world, because of the climate, the droughts are becoming more severe and more frequent. In this presentation, we're primarily going to look at those first two bullets. So primarily the second bullet. This is the one slide for the first bullet, which is, you know, we tend to think when we say, oh, we're going to save water, like I'm going to take fewer showers, or I'm going to, you know, turn off the water while I'm brushing my teeth, or flush the toilet less often. And these are all important things to do. But if you look at this slide, you can see that they're so tiny compared to changing your diet. The average person's water footprint, the first bar, the food we eat, that's the majority of the water we use. And then next to that is the water that's used to produce industrial goods that we utilize. And then finally, household goods, which even includes watering our gardens, is that tiny little bar at the end. So think about changing your diet if you're concerned about water. So I'm going to very quickly go through these three slides, very similar. This one is about the ton of food that you can produce with I'm sorry, my thing got in the way. This is the amount of water that's needed for to produce a ton of food, and it's in cubic meters. And the next two are going to be to produce calories and then protein. So you can see the beef is at the top with nuts after it. Nuts are very water hungry, but as I said in the last presentation, we don't eat as many nuts. We don't eat a quarter pound or a half pound of nuts at one serving. We can't. Most of us can't. And but that's a concern. And then there's sheep and goat meat, and then pig meat, butter, chicken, pulses, etc. Down at the bottom, you have the vegetable products starting to come in, the plant products, and you can see they're way less water than most of the animal products. So then we have how much per calorie, and it looks like a pretty similar distribution in some way. We've still got the beef up on the top, and then we've got the sheep and goat meat, and then the nuts. The nuts are quite a bit lower now per calorie because they're high in calories, right? And then on down the way, sorry. And then here we have the protein. So the beef, again, is on the top, sheep and goat meat, pig meat, etc. Nuts have fallen off of here because nuts are really high in protein, so it doesn't take a lot of water. You can see at the bottom, we have cereals and pulses. Pulses is legumes, beans and lentils. Very low on water compared to animal sources of protein. So then what becomes really clear is that the type of diet you're eating really makes a difference for your daily water footprint. So I'm just going to put it together all really quickly here, just kind of pull together some of these concepts. Again, when we look at those different categories of environmental harm or how much water it takes, there are certain patterns that show, regardless of what you're analyzing, the analysis kind of takes a certain curve. So this has got the animal products on the top. Again, they're on the top because they're the major sources. It's got the plants on the bottom, and what it's showing is 4 different distinct environmental challenges: greenhouse gas emissions, acidification, eutrophication, which is also ocean dead zones, land use. And you can see the animal products at the top, with beef at the very top, have much bigger impact on these environmental issues than the plants at the bottom. And here's a similar slide with milk. Almonds stand out as being one of the plants that uses a lot of water, but there's plenty of different options for plant milks that have considerable savings over dairy milk. So there's been, like I mentioned, there's been a bit of scientific research, a fair amount lately, about how can we feed the growing human population a sustainable diet that is healthy for everybody. And this is some of the really exciting work. The link to this will be put up in the chat later, is the Eat Lancet Commission. And they found that we could actually reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 80% by 2050 just by shifting to a plant-forward diet. Everybody doesn't have to be a vegan, but we have to eat more plants. So this plate that you're looking at, that's the guidelines that the Canadian government has adopted. That's their recommended diet to the people of Canada. And it looks pretty much like the diet that the Eat Lancet Commission came up with, and said if everybody in the world is eating like this, mostly plants, 3/4 of the plate is all plants, and then the other quarter has plants and animal products together. Then there would be sufficient food for everyone to be nourished, and we also would be able to grow it sustainably. So this other study looked at 4 different diet scenarios, and they projected the health, environmental, and economic costs, or costs associated with each. They used a reference diet that was projections based on the current patterns of eating, and then a healthy global diet, which was basically what governments all over the world are telling people to do: eat more fruits and veggies, less meat and red sugar, keep your calories within the right limits. And then there's a vegetarian diet, which is it was plants and dairy and eggs usually, and then a vegan diet, which is all plants. Those are the 4 scenarios. This is the change in emissions. So if we stay on course with the reference, 51% higher emissions. If we move to the healthy global diet, we're at 7% higher. If we go to vegetarian, 45 to 55% lower emissions, and vegan, 63 to 70% lower. I mean, this is exciting news, I think. So then they looked at the health impacts, and the global healthy diet is going to avoid, over 5 million deaths and save a lot of lives. But the others, the vegan and the vegetarian, are going to do even better. So again, go as far as you can. Here's the cost savings. I don't know why the bottom of the screen is cut off, but the vegan diet is higher cost savings than the vegetarian. It's the same pattern. Billions of dollars. So just to summarize, change your diet, maximize your potential for vibrant health, cool the earth, do your part to ensure that we have a sustainable, well-nourished human presence on this earth, and contribute to a world with reduced pandemic risk. So there's many, many things that you can do to help. You're probably already doing many things. I just could tell from your intentions and the things you've put in the chat that many people in this call are already taking action wherever we are. I'm taking action every day, all day, late into the night sometimes, but there's still other things that I want to do. And so here are some possibilities. Continuing education. We'll put some links. Actually, Sabrina, go ahead and put the links in the chat now. I put in some links to things where you can learn more. Dietary shift. If you're not eating all plants already, what incremental step is your next step? Or do you want to go all the way? Educate others, get the word out, and advocate for change. There's many ways to do that. You could join an organization. You could join Eat for the Earth. We would love to have you involved with us. And again, Sabrina's putting information about all that in the chat. So we just have a little bit of time left, but if people would really quickly put in what is your next step in the chat, and then I'll have Ileana read 3 or 4 of them, and then we'll go on to our closure. So what is your next step? Do we have some?
Whoever shares them first will get them shared with the group.
Okay, so meanwhile, while she's doing that, I just want to say, while we're waiting, I just want to say thank you very much. You've been really engaged and attentive, and I absolutely believe that together we can make a difference. And we still have our Q&A, so I'm not going anywhere, but I'm finishing my presentation by saying thank you, thank you, thank you. I so appreciate having you here, and I'll turn it over to Ileana.
So I see Lisa's writing in, incorporating more vegetarian or vegan meals every week into my food preparations. That's awesome. Working to reduce my water consumption via food, which I think to an outsider probably sounds so crazy, but that definitely is something that you can do. I want to work on helping low-income families have easy access to vegetarian and vegan recipes that are also cost-friendly. Add more variety to my meals and make a plan to transition to more plant-based and have examples for others. Awesome. And keep those rolling in. I think we're going to transition now over to Sabrina, and I just want to thank both of our presenters once again for wonderful presentations. We'll try and hit some of those questions at the end, but I know we might be going over time, so I want to get to those announcements.
All right. Hello. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Can you see me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to say thank you for joining us. Thank you, Beth and Sandy, for your great presentations. And now we're just going to talk a little bit about what's next, ways you can continue to be involved with Eat for the Earth. And I'm happy that this is going to be posted on YouTube. So thanks to everyone who's tuning in live, and then those of you that are watching, sometime in the future. So firstly, we have what's on your plate this week. Continue, please, to submit your photos of you with your meals or of your meals that are plant-based. And feel free to write about, what's in them, why you eat for the earth, or how you choose to do that. And then go ahead and tag us and use the hashtag Eat for the Earth 2020 and hashtag what's on your plate for Earth Week. Okay. Next up, in case you didn't get to see Wednesday's webinar, which was called What's on Your Fork, you can still do that. It is uploaded to Facebook, so it was recorded, and then this one is being recorded and will also be uploaded. I will share that link in the chat so everyone can have access to that. Would someone be able to move the next slide for me, please? So this is what our little promo what is this called? Image, our promo image. But yeah, feel free to tune into that as well as this one once it's up on YouTube if you wanted to share it with your friends and family. If you're like, hey, I went to this really awesome webinar, here's the link, you should watch it, And then next, if you want to join in live again, we have classes, cooking classes with our beautiful Reverend Chef Beth Love and Sandy Rockenmacher. And this one is Sunday, April 26th from 3 to 4:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, called Hearty Whole Grain Creations. The next class is Sensational Salads and Dressings to Cool the Earth on Thursday, April 30th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Again with Beth and Sandy. And then lastly, we have Desserts in the Raw on Sunday, May 3rd, 1 to 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. As I mentioned in the last webinar, Beth's desserts are impeccable. Maybe I just have a sweet tooth, but they are just so bomb. I think everyone should tune in for that. I will be tuning in. And all of these classes are donation based. So thank you all for coming. We hope to see you soon. And now we're going to transition over to the Q&A. So Dan, if you could join us, it would be lovely. We're excited to answer your questions. I'm seeing some stuff in the chat about the oils, so that's cool. We're going to answer those questions really shortly.
Hello, everyone, and happy Earth Week. Hope you're having a good day, and I hope you're enjoying this webinar. We've got some really good questions. I'll start off with an anonymous attendee. It can be difficult to find true whole foods, plant-based recipes that do not have added oils or processed fake meats. Do you have any recommendations to find recipes? You got to unmute. Okay, there you go.
For starters, why don't you come to my classes? I'm doing 3 classes in the next 8 days, and they're all whole food, plant-based, oil-free, free of added salts and sugars. So yeah, I'd love to, I'd have more time. And Sandy might want to answer that question too. And I'm mindful that it's afternoon. So we told you we were going to have you till noon. And if anybody needs to get off, we just want to bless you and say thank you for coming. And if people can stay for a little bit more for the questions, I'd love to turn it over to Sandy. She has, I know, some really great ideas.
Okay, so you're talking, the questions about plant-based recipes? Is that what the question's about? Whole food, plant-based? Well, besides what Beth has to offer, which is great, she has some great books out. PCRM, the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, has a really free app. It's called 21 Day Vegan, and the link was in the chat. It's just go to www.pcrm.org and you can find it through them, but it's an app. It's through Google Apps or whatever apps, where you get your apps. So that's what I would say.
Great. Next question. Bailey Shackton says, I love your mission, but a lot of times healthy diets and information like this is targeted toward people who can afford it, often upper middle class white Americans. How do you plan on getting this message out to the people that really need this information, lower income Americans? These are the people that are most affected by environmental injustice, food deserts, and health issues. How can we make nutritious food more available?
Thank you. That's a really great question. I actually want to say that Eat for the Earth is doing outreach through, usually through in-person things like fairs and festivals. And we actually see a lot of people who are probably amongst the demographic that you're talking about. And I also want to say that our mission also includes and is very strongly focused on changing institutions so that the context in which food is eaten is different, so that it makes it easier for people to eat more plants and less animal products. So for instance, we're working with the County Board of Supervisors on an initiative to have the county take a lead in modeling. And we are working within the school system. And we have a couple of volunteers in one of the local hospitals. So we're looking for ways to make the institutional food change, which will affect everybody. I also want to just say that there's a lot of organizations that are working on this, and there's actually a strong movement toward more marginalized people and more people of color having access to this, including through some huge Instagram stars that are people of color, through the organization that Sandy mentioned. They have a partnership with a number of Native American tribes where they're going in and helping them to reclaim their own natural, healthy native foods, which are mostly plant-based. And they're having tremendous results with reductions in diabetes and heart disease and obesity, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a fair amount that's going on, and I'm as concerned about this as you are. I do think that we need to deal with economic and social injustices and environmental injustice, and I appreciate the question.
I think that's most of the questions that have not been answered. Let's see. Well, here's one. Another anonymous attendee says, I have small children. I am often criticized for trying to feed my children healthy meals. Others indicate I am denying my children. Do you have any advice?
I can give you some advice. Like I said earlier, I've been on this journey for 40 years. And back then I was the weirdo, woohoo! And now I have so many more people to play with. There's so many more resources. You have to just know your heart, and you have to just say yes to, just nod your head and walk away. And especially if it's relatives, that's really hard, but you just have to give them some more educational opportunities. And one of the links was something that's starting today, and it's called the Food Revolution Summit. And it's free. You can sign up today, and it's, I think, probably about 7 days. And just listen in anytime. It's going to give you more and more information, and I'm sure they're going to address as well COVID-19. And it interfaces with what I was saying. Eat more plants. Plants are healers. Mother Nature didn't make a mistake. Sorry, Mother Nature never makes a mistake. She knows how to do it. You eat plants, you're going to protect yourself because of what the plants do and how the microbes commingle or co-evolve with the plants and help us. So you're going to just have to understand your heart and know your truth and keep walking your walk and singing your song, because that's your truth. And
Absolutely.
it's more of all the world's truth as we learn more.
Yeah, thank you, Sandy. I want to add to that, because one of the things that I think is really important is for those of us that are doing something countercultural, and again, eating more plants is countercultural, and going all the way to plant-based or whole food plant-based is very countercultural. It's very important for us to have support. So I would encourage you to find a meetup group where you live, or if there isn't one, to start one, or start a club, or start increasing the number of people that you connect with that are aligned with you in your thinking, so that you have the support that you need. And then the other thing is to go back to what I was saying at the beginning. What is that truth that you can hold on to that can keep you going forward? For me, when my children were little, it was like I couldn't do anything less, because I knew that it was my job to do what was best for their body, regardless of what the social situation was or what people thought I was doing. And they both grew up to be very, very healthy, strong, vibrant people, and I stuck to my guns even through their adolescence and their own explorations. So thank you for the great question. Do we have any more?
I think that's it.
I'd like to say just one thing about the oils, because there's been a number of people asking about oils, because I said that they're not a food item. Nature never intended us to eat oils. And the short story is that my grandmother, she was the one that I went to and asked her when I heard first not to eat oils. And I asked her, she lived 107 years, and she only died about 5 years ago. And I said, what did you have Did you have oils? And she said, we didn't have oils. And I said, well, then how did you live? You didn't have oils. And she said, well, when we needed a little bit of oil on the bottom of a pan, she'd just get a cloth, a napkin, paper towel, and she would just very lightly grease the bottom of the pan, but there was no blip, blip, blip in the pan with the oils. And I said, well, what about salad dressings? And she said, oh, we just had sweetened vinegar. That's it. And then I said, well, what about olive oil? And actually she said, we didn't have olive oil. Now she grew up here in California, San Jose. And she said, we didn't have olive oil. The reason why is because back then it was an import and it was expensive. And so then I talked to two old Italian men, different times, and they both told me the same thing. It was expensive. We didn't even have that much olive oil in Italy. And when we had it, we used it as a flavoring. That's all it was, a flavoring. And so go back in time, olive oil was first used as lamp oil, and then it was used externally as ointments and blessings and for coronations or ordinations of high priests or whatever. But it was never intended to be used like it is today. And all the other oils, they're great oils for food manufacturers to get you to eat what they're processing, because it is another processed ingredient. You do not need oils. All the recipes that Beth makes, there's no oils in them. All the recipes, 21-day vegan, there's no oils. You will be amazed at how much weight you will be losing immediately if you stop eating oils.
Yeah. Thank you, Sandy. Sandy is one of the smartest people I know on the topic of oils. And if you want to learn more, because she has more to say, believe me, come to the salads and dressings class, because she'll be talking about oils, the different types of fats in that class. And in the grains class, which is tomorrow, she's going to be talking about healthy carbs. So I'm just really pleased, Sandy, that you're going to be joining me for those classes to impart your wisdom. And I appreciate you joining me today. And I think we're done. Are we done? So I just want to say thank you, everybody, for coming. Really appreciate you being here. Ileana, do we have anything else we need to do by way of housekeeping?
No, I think we're all set. I just want to let everyone know that the recording will be posted on YouTube. So if you want to follow up with anything or revisit any of the slides or any of the points that the presenters talked about, just stay tuned. Look for that link in your email. I think it'll be coming through Eventbrite too. And also if you're on the Eat for the Earth newsletter, you'll also get the follow up there as well. So yeah, you can visit that. If you also want to see our webinar from about 2 days ago, you can do that as well. So yeah, thanks again to our presenters, and thank you to the Eat for the Earth team who helped make this possible, and thank you to everyone who joined us today. I put the Eat for the Earth email address in the chat, so if you have any follow-up questions, do let us know. But again, thanks for spending this hour and 12 minutes of your weekend with us. It's been a pleasure, and yeah, we hope you enjoy some tasty plant meals this weekend. Make sure you share them with us on our Instagram if you share them there. All right, bye everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Have a good day.